The small settlement on the red-orange planet was quiet that morning. Smoke curled from the chimneys of metal workshops, and the hum of engines filled the air. Humans lived here for many years, building homes and machines in the rocky landscape. Life was ordinary but peaceful. That was until the hatchling appeared. No one knew where it came from. Some called it a miracle, others whispered about old legends of dragons. The small creature was no bigger than a dog, with bright green scales that shimmered in the sunlight. Its wings were tiny, almost useless for flying, and its eyes were wide and full of fear. It shivered as it looked around, lost in the strange new world. The settlement workers were confused. They had never seen a dragon alive before. Scientists took samples and recorded data, but the hatchling refused to eat. It hissed softly at anyone who tried to approach. Machines and food could not calm it. It seemed lonely and scared. The settlement's mechanic, a man named Joran, was called to examine the creature. He was tall and strong with hands that could fix anything. But when he saw the hatchling he felt something different. He knelt down and held out his hand, but the hatchling did not move. It only looked at him with cautious eyes. Joran thought for a moment. He realized the creature needed more than machines or food. It needed care, someone gentle to help it feel safe. He thought of his son, Talon, who was 7 years old. Talon was small and curious, with bright eyes and a kind heart. He loved animals and often spent hours talking to the settlement's cats and dogs. "Maybe your father is right," Talon said softly when he saw the hatchling. He stepped forward slowly. "I won't hurt you." The hatchling tilted its head. It had never seen a child like Talon before. It sniffed the air, then slowly stepped closer. Talon reached out his hand, and for the first time the hatchling nuzzled it gently. Its tiny claws were soft, and its scales felt warm. Everyone in the settlement watched in surprise. No one had expected the dragon to trust a human, especially not a child. But it did. And that was only the beginning. Joran lifted the hatchling carefully and carried it to his workshop. He laid down soft blankets and made a small bed. The creature looked around nervously but stayed close to Talon. Whenever anyone else came near, it hissed softly and curled into a ball. But if Talon was near, it relaxed. Its eyes followed him everywhere. The day passed slowly. Talon sat beside the hatchling, telling it stories about the settlement, about machines, and about the stars in the sky. The hatchling listened quietly, blinking slowly. It even made soft chirping sounds that Talon learned to understand as happiness. "Do you like me?" Talon asked, smiling. The hatchling nudged his hand and let out a small purr. Talon laughed. "I think you do." Joran watched silently. He had repaired machines, built engines, and fixed robots, but he had never seen anything like this. The connection between his son and the hatchling was special. It was not just friendship, it was trust, something rare and strong. By evening, the hatchling had eaten a little food, just enough to survive, but it would not sleep. It curled into a ball and looked around nervously. Talon noticed and sat closer. He whispered softly, telling it stories and singing small songs. Slowly the hatchling's eyes grew heavy. It relaxed a little, resting its head on Talon's lap. "This is amazing," Joran said quietly. "It only listens to you." Talon nodded. "I think it likes me because I don't try to control it. I just care." The settlement's people were amazed. Some smiled, some whispered, and some still looked confused. No one had expected a dragon to survive here, let alone trust a human child. The scientists scribbled notes, trying to understand, but it was clear that this was more than science. Something magical, or at least very rare, was happening. Night came and the settlement grew quiet. Lights from the workshops glowed softly, and stars shone above. The hatchling finally closed its eyes, resting beside Talon. Its small chest rose and fell slowly. For the first time it felt safe. And for the first time, the settlement understood that this dragon was not just an animal. It had chosen someone. It had chosen Talon. Joran watched them, feeling pride and wonder. This was not the end of the story, he knew. It was only the beginning. The hatchling had arrived, but its true journey with Talon was just starting. And everyone in the settlement, even those who doubted, would soon learn that this little dragon could change their world in ways they could never imagine. Talon and the hatchling had become inseparable. Every morning the boy ran to the workshop, eager to see his small green friend. The hatchling would chirp softly when it saw him, flapping its tiny wings excitedly. It seemed to smile, though no one had ever seen a dragon smile before. Joran watched from his workbench as the two played. The boy taught the hatchling simple games, like chasing small balls or following a trail of glowing orbs he had made. The hatchling was fast, clumsy, and full of energy. It would tumble, fall, and get back up, always returning to Talon with its tiny claws leaving faint scratches on the soft blankets. The settlement's residents began to notice the bond. Children whispered about the dragon and the boy, and adults often peeked through the workshop windows, amazed. The hatchling trusted no one but Talon. If anyone else tried to touch it, it hissed softly and moved away. But with Talon it was calm, playful, and even affectionate. Talon had a gentle way of speaking. He didn't yell or demand. He simply shared his day, told stories, or sang small songs. The hatchling responded with chirps, soft roars, and even tiny puffs of smoke from its nose. It was learning fast, copying some of Talon's gestures. When Talon waved, the hatchling tried to flap its wings like it was waving too. One afternoon, Talon led the hatchling to the settlement's small pond. The dragon had never seen water like this before. At first, it hesitated at the edge, peering at its reflection. Then, with a small leap, it splashed into the shallow water. Talon laughed and clapped his hands. The hatchling splashed back, sending water flying everywhere. They played for hours, rolling in the sun and laughing together. The scientists observed closely. They recorded the hatchling's reactions, noting how it responded only to Talon. "It's remarkable," said one. "It seems the dragon has chosen him." Another nodded. "Imprinting is rare, but it looks like this hatchling's bond is permanent." At night, Talon stayed by the hatchling's side. The creature would curl up beside him, resting its head on his lap or leaning against his chest. When Talon spoke softly, the hatchling closed its eyes and relaxed. But if anyone else tried to touch it, it would grow tense and shift away. Joran smiled as he watched. He had repaired ships, built machines, and solved problems, but this connection between human and dragon was something new. It was not just about trust, it was about understanding. Talon could read the hatchling's moods, and the hatchling seemed to know when Talon was happy or sad. One evening the hatchling did something surprising. It leaned close to Talon and blew a tiny harmless puff of fire into the air. It danced like sparks around the boy, lighting up his face. Talon laughed and clapped. "That's amazing. You're learning so fast." The hatchling chirped in response, proud of its small achievement. The settlement began to change because of them. People started treating the hatchling with more care and respect. Children wanted to see it, but they also learned to give it space. Adults became curious, realizing that humans and dragons could work together, not fight. Talon's friends often visited the workshop. They watched the hatchling play, learning how it reacted to gestures and sounds. Some laughed when it tried to mimic Talon's actions. Others were amazed by how clever the dragon was. But everyone agreed on one thing: the bond between the boy and the hatchling was extraordinary. One day the hatchling followed Talon outside the workshop into the rocky hills surrounding the settlement. They explored together, hopping over stones and peeking into caves. The hatchling was brave with Talon by its side, but it still hesitated when others came near. It was clear that Talon was its safe place, its protector and friend. As the sun began to set, the two returned to the workshop. The hatchling was tired from the day's adventures. It curled up beside Talon, who was lying on the blankets. The boy stroked its soft scales gently. "You're my friend?" he whispered. The hatchling blinked slowly, a soft rumble escaping from its throat. It was a sound that seemed like a quiet promise. Joran leaned against the doorway and watched them. He realized that the boy had something very rare, an understanding of another species that adults often missed. The hatchling had chosen Talon not because of strength or commands, but because of kindness, patience, and care. That was what made their bond so strong. Night fell and the settlement lights glowed faintly. The hatchling's breathing slowed as it slept beside Talon. For the first time, it felt truly safe in the strange human world. Talon smiled, knowing that they were not just friends, they were partners. Together they could explore, learn, and protect each other. The scientists and residents knew one thing for sure: this dragon and this boy were special. Their bond was more than friendship. It was a connection that might change the way humans and dragons could live together. And as the stars twinkled above the settlement, Talon and the hatchling slept peacefully, ready for the adventures that awaited them tomorrow. Days passed and Talon and the hatchling grew even closer. The little dragon had begun to explore more, always staying near the boy. It was playful, curious, and full of energy, but it also acted strangely at times. Small things in the settlement seemed to catch its attention. Sometimes, it would stare at glowing machines or flickering lights, tilting its head as if it understood more than anyone realized. One afternoon, while Talon and the hatchling played near the workshop, the dragon froze. Its green scales shimmered and its eyes widened. Talon noticed and ran closer. "What is it?" he asked softly. The hatchling hissed quietly, its tail curling around a metal pipe. It pointed its snout toward the hills beyond the settlement, then chirped sharply. Joran, who was repairing a rover nearby, came over. He frowned as he watched the dragon. "It's reacting to something," he said. "I don't know what." He knelt and tried to look where the dragon was pointing, but there was nothing unusual. The hills were quiet, the sky empty, and the rocks plain. Yet the hatchling stayed alert, eyes fixed on a distant spot. Talon stepped closer. "Maybe it knows something we don't," he said. The hatchling chirped again and nudged him toward the hills. Curious, Talon followed, with the hatchling hopping carefully beside him. It moved quickly but not recklessly, glancing back every few steps to make sure Talon was keeping up. As they climbed a small ridge, the hatchling suddenly stopped. It leaned against Talon's leg and made a soft rumbling sound like a whisper. Talon bent down. "What is it, little one?" he asked. The dragon nudged a patch of strange glowing moss hidden between the rocks. Talon crouched to examine it. The moss pulsed faintly, and when he touched it, he felt a tiny vibration in his fingers, almost like it was alive. The hatchling chirped excitedly, hopping around the moss. Talon realized that the dragon could sense something invisible to human eyes. "You can feel it, can't you?" he said. The dragon nudged him gently, and a small puff of smoke rose from its nostrils. It was almost like it was saying yes. Back in the workshop, the scientists noticed that the hatchling was behaving differently. It refused to eat, hissing when they approached, and kept looking toward the hills. They ran scans and checked its scales but found nothing unusual. The only person the hatchling trusted was Talon. This made the adults nervous but also intrigued. That night, Talon could not sleep. He sat beside the hatchling, whispering softly. "There's something out there you want me to see, isn't there?" The hatchling blinked slowly, laying its tiny head on his shoulder. It was calm but alert, as if urging him to follow tomorrow. Talon nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and wonder. The next morning, Talon woke early. He prepared some small snacks for the hatchling and led it toward the hills. The dragon's wings fluttered with excitement. They moved carefully, avoiding rocks and small crevices, until they reached the glowing moss. There, Talon found something extraordinary, a small, broken holographic device half buried in the soil. It flickered weakly, showing strange symbols and shapes. The hatchling hissed softly and nudged Talon's hand toward the device. Talon picked it up, brushing off the dirt. The symbols looked like nothing he had ever seen, but the dragon seemed to understand them. It chirped and pawed at the device, and tiny sparks of light shot from its claws, lighting up the symbols more clearly. Talon gasped. You can read this?" The hatchling chirped proudly and curled around the device. Joran and the scientists were called, and when they saw the lights they were amazed. The hatchling was not just intelligent, it could interact with alien technology in ways humans could not. The holographic device told a story. It showed images of dragons flying in the skies, humans working with them, and distant planets where they lived together. Talon realized the hatchling species had a long history with humans, long forgotten over generations. The hatchling had chosen him because it remembered this connection instinctively. Joran shook his head in disbelief. "It's like your friend remembers something we lost," he said. "This isn't just a dragon. It's a guardian, a teacher, and a friend all in one." The settlement was stunned. The hatchling had chosen Talon not randomly, but because it knew the boy could understand its needs and the history of its kind. From that day on, the bond between Talon and the hatchling became more than friendship. The dragon guided him to places with hidden relics, glowing stones, and strange plants that reacted to its presence. Talon learned to trust the dragon's instincts, and the dragon trusted Talon's judgment. Together they explored, discovered, and uncovered mysteries that had been forgotten for centuries. By nightfall, Talon sat beside the hatchling once more. "We found it," he whispered. The dragon nudged him gently, purring softly. The boy realized that their bond was not just for comfort or play, it was a connection to the past, a bridge between humans and dragons. The settlement would soon learn that this little hatchling was more than it seemed, and that Talon's role was much bigger than anyone had imagined. And as the stars sparkled above, Talon and the hatchling rested together, ready to face the mysteries of tomorrow. Life in the settlement had changed since Talon and the hatchling discovered the holographic device. The dragon had grown a little bigger, and its scales glimmered brighter in the sunlight. Talon spent every moment with it, exploring the hills, climbing rocky paths, and learning more about the hidden world the hatchling seemed to know. But not everyone in the settlement was happy. Some of the adults worried about the hatchling's growing abilities. It could make sparks of fire, move small objects with its claws, and even sense hidden energy in machines. The council argued that the dragon might be dangerous. They suggested keeping it in a secure area, far from Talon and the other children. When Talon heard this, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He could not imagine being separated from his friend. The hatchling had already shown that it trusted no one else. Without him, it might become scared, lonely, or even sick. He ran to Joran, hoping his father could help. "Dad, they want to take it away," Talon said, holding the hatchling close. "It will only be safe with me. Please, you have to help." Joran knelt down and looked at the dragon. Its small green eyes met his, full of trust and quiet fear. He sighed. "I understand, son. We need to show them that the hatchling is not dangerous, that it only responds to you because of the bond you share." The next morning, the council gathered in the workshop. Talon and the hatchling entered together. The dragon stayed close to the boy, blinking calmly but alert. Some of the council members stepped forward, looking nervous. "Show us its abilities," one of them said. "If it is strong or unpredictable, we need to know." Talon nodded. "It won't hurt anyone," he said confidently. "But it trusts me. I can control it and it listens to me." Slowly, he led the hatchling through a series of tests. The dragon moved objects from one table to another, carefully and without breaking anything. It lit small torches with tiny puffs of fire, avoiding the blankets and metal tools. It even responded to Talon's commands to roll, jump, and spin, all without causing harm. The council members whispered among themselves. Some looked impressed, while others remained skeptical. But the dragon had another surprise. When Talon held the holographic device again, the hatchling nudged him gently, and a small pulse of energy passed from its claws into the device. Symbols glowed brighter, and strange images appeared, showing ancient dragons working side by side with humans. The room fell silent. No one could deny what they were seeing. The hatchling was intelligent, gentle, and capable of incredible things, but only under Talon's care. It was clear that separating them could be harmful. One council member, however, was not convinced. "What if it grows stronger? What if it decides to harm us or leave the settlement?" she asked. The hatchling blinked slowly as if sensing her doubt. It leaned close to Talon and let out a soft purr, curling against his leg. Talon smiled and spoke gently. "It won't. It trusts me because we care for each other. We are friends, not enemies." Joran stepped forward. "We cannot control the dragon like a machine. It responds to kindness, patience, and understanding. That is why it chose Talon. And that is why it is safe here with him." After a long pause, the council nodded slowly. They realized that the bond between the boy and the hatchling was not just special, it was necessary. The dragon's loyalty and intelligence depended on Talon, and Talon's safety and growth depended on the dragon. Together, they were stronger, wiser, and capable of discovering things no human could do alone. Over the next few days, Talon and the hatchling faced small challenges together. They climbed higher hills, explored new caves, and even discovered hidden energy crystals in the rocks. Each adventure tested their teamwork, patience, and understanding. Whenever Talon felt unsure, the hatchling nudged him, guiding him in the right direction. Whenever the dragon was nervous, Talon whispered softly, giving it courage. The settlement began to see them differently. Children followed Talon's example, treating animals and even alien creatures with care. Adults realized that strength was not always about power, it was about trust, loyalty, and empathy. The hatchling had become more than a creature to fear. It was a teacher and a reminder that humans could grow stronger through kindness and cooperation. One evening, as the sun set over the red-orange hills, Talon and the hatchling sat together on a large rock. The dragon rested its head on his lap, and the boy stroked its scales gently. "We've faced so much already," Talon said softly, "and there is more to discover. But I know we can handle it, together." The hatchling purred softly, curling closer. Its eyes glimmered in the fading light, reflecting the stars above. For the first time, Talon understood that their bond was not just for play or protection. It was a partnership, a connection that could guide both of them through challenges yet unseen. And as the settlement lights glowed faintly in the distance, Talon and the hatchling remained side by side, ready for whatever adventures and mysteries awaited them tomorrow. They had faced doubt, fear, and uncertainty, but together they were unstoppable. The mornings in the settlement had become brighter since the hatchling arrived. Talon and his dragon friend had explored nearly every hill and cave nearby. Each day brought new discoveries, new surprises, and more people curious about the little green creature that trusted only one boy. But today felt different. The hatchling had been restless since dawn, pacing back and forth in the workshop. Its small wings fluttered nervously, and its eyes flicked toward the sky. Talon knelt beside it, stroking its soft scales. "What is it, little one?" he whispered. The dragon nudged him toward the hills beyond the settlement, letting out a series of soft chirps that sounded urgent. Joran appeared, carrying a small pack with supplies. "Looks like it wants to show you something," he said, smiling at his son. "Are you ready for another adventure?" Talon nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and curiosity. He and the hatchling climbed the rocky path, moving carefully but quickly. The dragon led the way, occasionally looking back to make sure Talon was following. After some time, they reached a secluded plateau high above the settlement. The wind blew gently, carrying the scents of distant plants and the faint hum of hidden energy. There, in the middle of the plateau, stood a large crystal. It glowed faintly at first, but when the hatchling stepped closer, it pulsed brighter, as if it recognized the dragon. Talon gasped. The crystal had markings similar to those on the holographic device they had found earlier. It was ancient and somehow alive. The hatchling let out a small roar, not loud but full of emotion. Then it stepped closer to Talon, placing its claw lightly on his hand. Sparks of light jumped between the dragon and the boy, and the crystal glowed stronger, projecting holographic images into the air. Talon and Joran watched in awe. The images showed dragons flying across planets, humans working beside them, and peaceful settlements where the two species lived together. The hatchling chirped, nudging Talon's hand toward the images as if saying, "See? This is our history." "It remembers," Joran whispered. "Your friend remembers everything." The hatchling's eyes sparkled. It nudged Talon again and puffed a tiny burst of smoke that formed shapes in the air, symbols, stories, and even warnings from the past. Talon realized that the dragon could communicate without words. Its gestures, puffs, and chirps carried meaning. This was the reason it had refused to sleep or eat around anyone else. It needed someone who could understand it. The realization hit the settlement slowly as the news spread. The hatchling was not just a young dragon, it was a messenger, a guide, and a living memory of an ancient bond between humans and dragons. It had chosen Talon because he could listen, care, and understand, just as the humans of long ago had done with its ancestors. The council called a meeting in the workshop. This time there was no argument. They had seen the bond, the intelligence, and the gentle power of the hatchling. Talon demonstrated how the dragon communicated with the crystal, showing the holographic images and explaining what the gestures meant. Everyone watched in awe. One of the council members, who had been skeptical before, spoke slowly. "I see now, it is not dangerous. It has chosen Talon, and through him it teaches us. We were wrong to fear it." The hatchling chirped softly, curling around Talon's legs. It rested its head on his lap, and for the first time, the entire settlement understood that this small creature was more than an animal. It was a friend, a teacher, and a bridge to the past. That night, Talon sat beside the hatchling under the stars. "We did it, little one," he whispered. "Everyone understands now." The dragon purred softly, leaning into him. Its tiny chest rose and fell with calm, steady breathing. For the first time, it slept peacefully with the boy, knowing that they were safe together. Joran looked on quietly, proud of his son. Talon had shown patience, kindness, and courage. He had earned the trust of a creature that could have been feared or misunderstood. But instead, he had helped the settlement see that strength comes from understanding, and friendship can be the most powerful bond of all. The next morning, the settlement began to change. Children watched Talon and the hatchling, learning how to care for creatures, even alien ones. Adults became curious and cooperative, realizing that humans could grow stronger by respecting life around them. The hatchling's presence had reminded them of something they had almost forgotten, that connection, trust, and empathy were greater than fear or control. Talon and the hatchling continued to explore, discover, and play. Each day brought new adventures, new lessons, and new wonders. The dragon taught Talon about the world beyond the settlement, and Talon taught the hatchling about humans and their inventions. Together they formed a partnership unlike any other. And as the sun set behind the red-orange hills, Talon sat with the hatchling beside him. The little dragon rested its head on his shoulder, eyes closing in comfort. The boy whispered softly, "We are ready for anything, together." The hatchling purred, sending a small puff of smoke into the air. Its glow reflected the stars above, and for the settlement, it was a reminder, humans and dragons, past and present, could live in harmony if they chose to understand and care for one another. From that day on, Talon and the hatchling were not just friends, they were a symbol of trust, courage, and the power of a bond that could change the world.